Wanted to first off just highlight the fact that this year was our kickoff of yet another strategic plan. We do 5-year strategic plans like the Soviet Union, hopefully much more successful than their strategic plans, but we have 3 initiatives in ours. The first one is to positively influence recreational boating behavior. We want the boater to be positively influenced and do the safe things. The second one is to positively influence the boating manufacturing and associated equipment manufacturers, so that we want them to do the positive things. And then the third and final one is to leverage boating data. The United States Power Squadron obviously plays a key role in executing what I consider to be the one initiative that is dear to all of our hearts, which is making sure that boaters operate safely. You do this both on, as the chaplain mentioned during his prayer, both on a global level and on a local level. The global level, the things you do are extremely important, and one that has really come to mind in this past year is America's Boating Channel. So America's Boating Channel is a grant that the Power Squadron has won repeatedly. In fact, most recently in 2022, you won it for a 3-year period. And when you look at how the Power Squadron has advanced that grant, in this April at the International Boating and Water Safety Summit, the Power Squadron just did an amazing job at launching smart TV applications, so that now you've basically warehoused almost all of the major grant material that's in video form in one location. And behind the flag, I can see Mary Page. You were credited with the idea to do that by Marty Lafferty, but it has just been an outstanding job. The Chief Commander did an excellent job of kicking things off by hitting a button that launched the Rolling Stones' "Start Me Up," which I'm told the copyright was paid for, so it was really a fantastic event.
At last, a full-time television destination for all things boating.
America's Boating Channel has come to your smart TV.
It's an on-demand app. It's a continuously playing channel.
And it's yours free, whenever and however you want to watch.
Whether you're new to boating and water sports or a seasoned boat operator, you'll find the appealing mix of boating videos right for you.
The boating lifestyle is all about enjoying on-the-water experiences.
Whether your idea of boating involves yachts, speedboats, sailboats, personal watercraft, kayaks, canoes, or stand-up paddleboards, we have you covered with a lineup of popular television programs.
Cruise with us on U.S. lakes, rivers, and ocean waterways.
Check out Boat Fails, Boating News, U.S. Sailing Team, Boat Races, Boating TV programs, Movies for Boaters, Cooking on Board, Boating Cartoons, U.S. Coast Guard, and Naval Films.
Learn to boat safely with America's Boating Channel's award-winning, Coast Guard-funded boater education videos.
Videos from the ACA on kayak fishing, canoeing, stand-up paddleboarding, recreational kayaking, and paddling with kids. We not only address skills, but also highlight hazard avoidance, multi-use waterway navigation, and proper life jacket wear.
National Association of State Boating Law Administrators and its Operation Dry Water titles on the dangers and consequences of boating under the influence. BUI incidents and fatalities are 100% preventable. We want to get everybody home safely after a day on the water.
National Safe Boating Council public service messages promoting the Safe Boating Campaign, Boat on Course, and get connected with easy-to-understand tips and resources for new and experienced boaters. From knowing essential boating gear to choosing the right life jacket. From understanding navigational aids to using an engine cutoff switch. Great content for every boater for a safe day on the water.
Sea-Tow Foundation videos you think nothing can take you down. How to fit a child with a life jacket. How do marine flares work and what kinds are there? How do I use a flare gun? And more. Boaters can learn from these videos and have a safe and fun time on the water because of them.
The Core Foundation and its Life Jackets Worn, Nobody Mourns video series featuring inflatable life jackets, everything you need to know, carbon monoxide, the silent killer, swim challenge, plus many more to improve recreational boating safety and save lives on our nation's waters.
And Water Sports Foundation's extensive catalog on nearly every boating safety subject. Life jackets, BUI, engine cutoff switches, boating safety for paddle sports, sailing and personal watercraft, boating safety testimonials from marine industry personalities. One boating fatality is one too many.
The wait is over. Celebrate the safe boating lifestyle. Become the best entertained and most informed boater you can be.
Subscribe now at no charge to America's Boating Channel on Smart TV.
Produced under a grant from the Sport Fish Restoration and Boating Trust Fund. Administered by the U.S. Coast Guard.
So you can go into the America's Boating Channel through Roku TV, through the Fire TV, and you can basically download video content from not only the United States Power Squadron, but from NASBLA, from our Water Sports Foundation, from our National Safe Boating Council. So I think it really speaks to the effort that Marty and his group demonstrate with that app, that everyone trusts them with the content provided. So just outstanding work on the grants that you have. And then when it comes to the grassroots level, this past year, because I think he is the epitome of grassroots effort, we lost a very important member of the Power Squadron, someone that I had grown to love dearly for the work that he does, Mr. George Hallenbeck. And so I wanted to kind of highlight some of the things that George has done. I know that many in this room are aware of it. I know that Dr. Bettino has highlighted it in the ensign. Marty Lafferty and his team also put together a tribute video that tells you all of what George did.
Lifetime Achievement Awards are seldom considered and rarely given in United States Power Squadrons. But for his remarkable record of enormous accomplishments over 63 years of membership, George Hallenbeck stands out as an exception. As Grant Project Manager for America's Boating Channel, I couldn't agree more. What George brought to the table for our work together producing videos for his Maritime Mobile Service Identity, or MMSI, and Boating Skills Virtual Trainer, or BSVT, grant programs was amazing. He presented himself as a force of nature, sharp and strong on vision, and equally important for video production, clear and insistent on details. It was no surprise to learn that George taught over 125 classes of America's boating course during more than 4 decades as an instructor. It was a wonder to discover George's depth of convictions on exactly what he wanted to convey in his videos and how you wouldn't want to cross it. For MMSI, George brought 4 deeply considered scenarios on the use of this life-saving service in the most common and critical on-the-water emergencies, plus the fact that for MMSI Mayday calls, the Coast Guard will deploy resources at once rather than waiting for independent verification, as they do for non-MMSI calls. Thanks to George's clout and credibility, our video crew was the only one ever permitted to film Sector Long Island Sound facility operations from behind closed doors. George's contributions ranged from overall concept to hands-on approval of every word of the script, every shot of the video, and every edit of the final cut. Because of George, MMSI is now one of our top 10 videos in total views. But beyond that, MMSI is being adopted by more and more recreational boaters and helping to save lives, thanks to George's back-end registration process for MMSI numbers. George's work on the Boating Skills Virtual Trainer series of videos was where I clearly heard echoes of his vast experience over a half-century of running cruises for Larchmont Yacht Club and the Corinthians. It was incredibly stimulating to experience George personally demonstrating the lesson plan that he devised for the best and highest use of his recreational vessel simulator in limited time slots at boat shows. He knew what he wanted, and it was pure genius. from a man who truly is the boater among boaters. When George and I first started working together, I speculated about what a saint Grace must be to tolerate such a strongly opinionated man. But once our egos meshed into a creative collaboration, I learned to love and respect George for always being right when he voiced those strong opinions and for having such high standards in all that he does. George has also brought much joy to Sari and me with his many stories based on a depth of knowledge of District 2 history, where both my father and father-in-law served as district commanders. So thank you, George Hollenbeck, for all that you do. It's an honor and pleasure to work with you.
For me, he became Mr. MMSI, so the Maritime Mobile Service Identifier. If you want to get an MMSI, and this group realizes that that is necessary for a digital selective calling radio or for an AIS, you had to basically pay for it, either through membership with Boat US or through a $35 fee. The Power Squadron was providing free MMSIs, which is critical to try to encourage people to register those devices and register them correctly. Not only was George spearheading that effort, but he was also the Coast Guard's point of contact whenever there was a question about MMSI identifiers. So they'd get a late night discrepancy because they were suddenly hearing that they had a potential distress case, and they'd be calling George. So George was a one-man show in many cases to try to provide information to the Coast Guard, and he just did an absolutely wonderful job.
In this session, you'll learn how a DSC VHF marine radio program with a unique 9-digit code called a Maritime Mobile Service Identity, or MMSI, can help provide for safer boating.
You'll learn how having an MMSI is necessary to utilize your radio's digital selective calling, or DSC feature, for automated distress hailing.
And you'll learn how having an MMSI can help take the search out of search and rescue in an emergency situation on the water.
You'll also learn how to properly register and obtain an MMSI at no charge, how to program an MMSI into your handheld or permanently mounted DSC VHF marine radio, and how to use it in case of an emergency.
What problems are we trying to avoid? Not being able to use the full capabilities of your modern marine radio by not having a properly registered MMSI to uniquely identify your vessel, plus who you are and where you are.
Failing to properly conduct a fully automated Mayday call because of not having your radio connected to your GPS, or not knowing your exact location and not having other critical information ready to be sent over your radio in an emergency.
Not being able to communicate individually with other vessels whose mobile phone numbers are unknown to you.
Allowing distractions to prevent properly attending to passengers and crew, such as too many tasks associated with correctly completing a Mayday call.
Delaying the dispatch of rescue services by triggering the need for verification procedures, which are required to mitigate false alarms from callers who do not transmit a DSC call with GPS data.
Not being able to provide your location to other boaters in your vicinity who may be better able to offer assistance, which happens automatically with an MMSI-enabled DSC call. So how do we do it right? First, ensure that your DSC VHF marine radio has the DSC with integrated GPS feature, and if not, consider replacing it with a more modern unit, or learn how to connect your radio with your GPS system.
Linking your GPS or other smart navigation device with your DSC radio is essential to ensure that a DSC distress call will automatically broadcast your position. Determine if you will be operating your vessel domestically or will you be traveling overseas. If you intend to travel overseas, request an MMSI number directly from the Federal Communications Commission using its website.
If you only intend to operate domestically, then visit usps.org/MMSI to establish an account, answer basic questions about your vessel, and request an MMSI at no charge.
The United States Power Squadrons is authorized by the Federal Communications Commission and the U.S. Coast Guard to issue MMSIs to U.S. flagged recreational boats being used in domestic waters. Next, enter your assigned MMSI into your DSC VHF marine radio.
DSC-equipped VHF handhelds should use the same MMSI assigned to the vessel to which the handheld is primarily associated, even if another onboard radio uses that same MMSI.
VHF handhelds not associated with a specific vessel may also register for an MMSI provided by Usps for non-commercial boating activities.
For handheld and permanently mounted DSC VHF marine radios, follow the radio manufacturer's instructions for entering your MMSI.
Use care in entering your 9-digit code. For security, false entries can only be corrected by returning the unit to its manufacturer or authorized agent.
Once your MMSI has been entered, you can check that your radio is transmitting properly by using Test MMSI 0036669999 to access the Coast Guard loopback channel. Use care not to test the red button.
You can also check proper operation as an added feature by using one of the VHF test channels 24 through 27, whichever provides best local reception, or by placing a point-to-point call to a boat operator known to be in your area. Refer to the radio's manual to make a routine call to another DSC VHF marine radio by addressing it to the other radio's MMSI.
DSC radios currently permit selecting which one of 10 categories best specifies the type of distress call: abandoning, adrift, capsizing, collision, fire, flood, grounding, person overboard, piracy, or sinking.
For example, when time is of the essence in an on-the-water emergency, such as the case of a small boat taking on water, the vessel operator can send a sinking MMSI automated distress call from a DSC VHF marine radio and request rapid assistance from other boats within range as well as the Coast Guard.
Or when the danger is grave, such as the case of flames suddenly appearing as the result of an electrical system failure, the vessel operator can send a fire MMSI automated distress call from a DSC VHF marine radio and request aid from local emergency services.
Or when the incident involves multiple vessels, such as the case of a large and small boat colliding due to poor visibility and communications, the vessel operator can send a collision MMSI automated distress call from a DSC VHF marine radio and request appropriate assistance from the U.S. Coast Guard and possibly local emergency services.
DSC emergency calls will be sent as unassigned, the default setting which may be easier to do in critical conditions.
With practice, you'll be more prepared for unforeseen emergencies on the water by having your unique MMSI programmed into your marine radio for automatic transmission of your boat's critical information, including your exact location and the nature of your distress, to authorities and other vessels in the vicinity that may be able to provide assistance. You'll be able to identify and reach other boats, even when they are out of range of your conventional mobile phone, with an MMSI-enabled point-to-point call. And you'll be able to provide peace of mind to concerned parties who wish to monitor your location when you're underway.
He also was involved in the GMDSS task force, and that pleasant acronym is the Global Maritime Distress and Safety System. George was part of a task force for decades that looked into how we could effectively implement that with the private sector. So he did amazing work there. And then Dr. Patino was telling me about all the things that he did at the squadron level. He was the squadron education officer. He was a district education officer. He taught over 200 courses. He was always, the guy that was willing to help and ask people if they needed assistance. Just one anecdote from me about just how dedicated George was is we wanted to highlight the simulator that the Power Squadron has developed. So we asked George to set it up outside the cafeteria at the headquarters building. And George comes down all the way from Connecticut, sets up the simulator, and literally for 5 hours ran people through. We must have ran over 65 people through the simulator. We had we really, it was an outstanding opportunity to show what we had done, and they were all running the slalom course, so we timed them, and it was a way for us to kind of get a little competition going. But I finally had to just ask George, let me buy you a sandwich just so you can get something in your stomach, because he'd been going at it for 5 hours. So he was just absolutely relentless when it came to the things he did for boating safety.
In this session, you'll learn how to set up the 3-screen Boating Skills Virtual Trainer.
Plus, how to shut down the system after use.
Be aware, this recreational boat simulator is an adult training tool, not a child's video game.
What problems are we trying to avoid? Not reading instructions before starting. Plugging cables into the wrong USB ports. Grasping the steering wheel during calibration.
Unplugging cables while the CPU is running. Trying to install foreign software programs from an external hard drive or the internet. Failing to anchor the wheel and throttle mechanism to the display table.
Attempting to separate the bundled harnesses. Using the keyboard without authorization. Handling monitors by their stanchions rather than their frames.
Installing left and right screen monitors backward, or connecting the wrong connector cables. After powering up, clicking the wrong icon to commence operations. Or, after use, shutting off the surge protector before properly powering down the system.
So, how do we do it right? First, open and inspect the contents of the 3 Pelican cases. Next, review the BSVT training manual.
Measure the display table to ensure it's at least 5 feet by 30 inches with proper lip depth to clamp the steering wheel and throttle. Set the CPU near the right side monitor within reach of connecting cables. Install the bases and set the left, middle, and right monitors in their proper positions by lining up the notched corners.
Anchor the steering wheel and throttle mechanism securely to the table using the appropriate clamps. Set the left and right speakers at the ends of the 3-monitor display. Set the mouse on the mouse pad near the steering wheel and throttle.
Plug the correctly labeled VGA or HDMI and power cable into each of the monitors. Plug the other ends of correctly labeled VGA cables for the middle and left side monitors into their ports in the rear panel of the CPU. Plug the HDMI cable connecting to the right side monitor into its port.
Connect the left and right speakers to each other and install their CPU connector. Then insert the other end of that connector into the green speaker port on the CPU.
Install the mouse cable into any unlabeled USB port on the CPU. Insert throttle harness 1 into the USB port labeled number 1. Insert the cable labeled number 2 into USB port number 2.
Plug the power strip surge protector into a clean power source of 120 volts and 10 amps, not a construction generator, which can damage the system. Check that the power strip surge protector is working, then turn it off to plug in the CPU, monitors, and speakers.
Turn on the power strip. After powering on the surge protector, check that the monitors come on. Look for blue lights on the bottom of the frames. Allow the monitors to cycle through their startup routine, displaying HDMI, then VGA, then DVI in their upper right corners. Ensure that the steering wheel and throttle are ready for automatic calibration.
Switch on the power on the rear of the CPU. Depress the secondary power button on the front of the CPU and confirm that the CPU blue light comes on to indicate the unit is operating. Observe the steering wheel automatic calibration without interference.
Check for the solid white light indicating that the system is now fully on. Place the sign-up sheet on the display table to record student usage. including 2 important system ratings after the session. Ready the virtual trainer life jacket and engine shutoff lanyard for student use.
Congratulations! Setup is complete and the unit is ready to be operated by clicking on the Boating Skills Virtual Trainer icon, showing the current software version in the upper left-hand corner of the monitors. To learn how to introduce novice boating students to the virtual trainer, please view the operations video.
And now, here's how to shut down the system after use, starting by choosing Quit. Then, click on the lower left icon to begin the shutdown. Next, power off the CPU on the back of the unit.
Disconnect the CPU power cord. Turn off the power strip surge protector and then unplug all cables and connectors. Unplug the power strip and pack all of the components back into their proper slots in the Pelican cases.
In this session, you'll learn operational techniques for introducing students to the Boating Skills Virtual Trainer.
View the setup and shutdown video first to learn how to physically assemble and power up the system.
Be aware, this recreational boat simulator is an adult training tool, not a child's video game.
Having a lesson plan with a beginning, middle, and end will help you provide meaningful hands-on training with maximum efficiency.
Here's a basic scenario to quickly expose novice boat operators to several boating skills in just 10 to 15 minutes. This structure will help you fairly and easily accommodate a group of students waiting to try out the trainer, offering each of them a valuable and stimulating experience. Plotting a short voyage, departing from the dock, basic steering and throttle control, referencing a compass, navigating channel etons, getting on plane, running a slalom course, setting a marina return heading, making use of range markers, maneuvering the fairway, and docking in a slip.
Start by choosing the Departing the Dock scenario and filling out the user form with the student. Gender, age, boating experience, boating type. We'll come back later for the 2 important system ratings and suggestions after the voyage. To comply with U.S. Coast Guard guidance, ensure that each student puts on the virtual life jacket and properly attaches the engine shutoff lanyard before turning over the helm.
Point out the on-screen chart with depth finder to visualize the starting point and initial destination, a slalom course northwest of the marina. Show the system's day and night capabilities. Allow the student to get a feel for the steering wheel and throttle.
Point out the working RPM gauge and speedometer. Practice with the controls to slew the view to port or starboard, stern, overhead, and gunnel. Explain what the trim tab does.
Introduce the impact of wind and current on boat operation and set direction and velocity to push the boat off the dock, helping ensure a smooth departure. After clearing the dock and no wake zone, turn to starboard and smoothly throttle up to get on plane. Point out the channel markers. Keep the red buoy on the left during departure. Red right return will apply coming back.
Once out of the channel, reference the compass to steer northwest toward the slalom course. After passing the white buoys, adjust the trim tab to lower the bow for better visibility and react to other boats in the vicinity by safely changing speed and direction. The movements of other boats on the lake are random.
When the yellow markers of the slalom course become visible, throttle back to between 10 to 12 knots for greater control. Guide the student to avoid oversteering and maintain a constant rate of speed, with hands off the throttle, through the slalom course. Turn the boat around and come back through the slalom, now with greater confidence.
Ask what course would be the opposite of northwest to return to the marina. That would be southeast, and use the compass to navigate accordingly. Locate the vertical range markers at the channel entrance and explain how to line them up to help center the boat in the channel. Apply the red right return rule.
As the vessel enters the fairway, guide the student to stay to starboard to facilitate turning into an empty slip that will come up on the port side. Choose one of the available slips and execute a slow turn to port to line up properly. Enter the slip at idle speed and shift into neutral. Reverse should not be needed.
Congratulations on a successful voyage. Change views to show the student the boat's location in the marina. This will be the starting point for the next student.
Or, time permitting, provide a deeper experience with towing, beaching, or trailering, navigating on the open lake at night, or even more advanced handling in wind and current. Then complete the bulk student activity form with the trainee, rating the virtual trainer's value in helping a boater gain confidence and how realistic the experience is, plus suggestions for future development. And reward the student with a sticker to wear that will encourage sharing the experience with others.
You're all set for the next student. View the Boating Skills Virtual Trainer Capabilities video to learn more about what the system can do and start formulating ideas for more advanced and specialized lesson plans.
In this session, you'll learn about advanced capabilities of the Boating Skills Virtual Trainer.
View the setup and shutdown video first to physically assemble and power up the system.
Then, watch the operations video to introduce novice boating students to the trainer.
Now choose English, French, or Spanish as your language for system operation and review physical controls for running the boat.
Be aware, this recreational boat simulator is an adult training tool, not a child's video game.
Rotate the steering wheel with the throttle gently engaged in forward or reverse to get a feel for its movement. Note the sidebars and hub control that change the view. Shift from neutral to forward, to neutral to reverse, and back to neutral.
Check out the functional trim tab. Sound the horn. Click on the crescent moon to switch from day to night.
During night mode, switch on Nav Anch and see the boat's navigation lights. Click on the sun icon to switch back from night to day. Locate the on-screen chart that functions as a GPS with an operating depth finder.
Try the built-in timer, useful for timing skill exercises. And do the same for the stopwatch. Finally, explore the wind and current controls for speed and direction, useful for dissuading novice boaters from taking risks in rough seas, and for challenging experienced students with environmental factors.
Now let's tour available scenarios in the order prescribed by the U.S. Coast Guard's Powerboat Operating Standards and Rubrics. Start by working with spring lines at the dock. Next, departing the dock, as shown in the operations video.
Maneuvering through the fairway can be used to exit the marina and get to open water, or return to the marina and choose a slip. One of the first hands-on skills to teach students is the pivot turn. Complete a full throw of the steering wheel one way, then the other, while alternating between reverse and forward at idle speed. Another basic skill is how to perform an emergency stop.
To teach how to avoid oversteering, take students through the slalom course at a fixed rate of speed. For experienced boaters, run the course in reverse gear. For more advanced maneuvering, cross the wake of other boats and overtake or meet other vessels.
You can teach what it's like to tow, a person tubing for instance, and additional navigational skills like running the intercoastal waterway. Experience what it's like to respond to a person overboard emergency.
Instruct on-arrival techniques by approaching and connecting to a mooring. Safely perform a shoreline landing or beaching. Approach a dock or marina slip to practice docking.
You can even help students maneuver the boat onto a roller trailer at the boat ramp. There are many more activities to experience with the virtual trainer, including highly stimulating moments such as this near collision at night. Plus additional teaching aids such as impaired operator goggles that simulate boating under the influence.
And why that's unlawful nationwide, with penalties as severe as driving a car while intoxicated. This can be extreme, colliding with an ATON and capsizing the boat. And the virtual trainer boat only can be righted by pressing restart. Whenever you wish in any of the scenarios, you can start over or return to the main menu to make another selection.
Adding wind and current or operating at night can increase the degree of difficulty. To provide the greatest value to students, make a lesson plan in advance with a beginning, middle, and end, and be clear about the skills you wish to impart. Remember to complete the bulk student activity form for each trainee, including the 2 important ratings on how the trainer improved his or her confidence and how realistic an experience it provided, plus suggestions for future capabilities.
Enhancements are already in process for emergency stopping, mooring, person overboard, and towing.
So we wanted to recognize him, and I wanted to recognize him with one of our awards. We have 2 awards that we give out. One of them is the Partnering with Pride Award. This is a pennant that we provide. It is not yet framed or, no, I think this is right. This is correct, right? Maybe I'm upside down here. So it reads, Partnering with Pride for George Hallenbeck, AP, I forgot my acronyms. Advanced Pilot, thank you very much. Right. And Inland Navigator, I didn't forget that one. America's Boating Club of Stamford for dedication to the National Boating Safety Program, March 2023. And you see that we have now started embroidering these pennants so that we can identify who we awarded this to. George, quite frankly, it surprised me when he passed. I don't think I had called him in a while. And this is something that I would have loved to have recognized him with while he was still with us. But we definitely want to make sure that Grace knows just how important the work he did was. Even though it's in a pennant form right now, one thing that we realized is I used to come to events with the awards. In some cases, initially they used to be these heavy glass trophies that literally you'd have to take another suitcase just to pack all the awards. Then we started taking big, huge framed things, and we realized that in some cases people don't want whatever award we're giving them framed. So what we do is we give them the option. We start unframed, and then we talk to the person and say, how do you want to display this in your house? And we'll make sure that we display it in the manner that you choose. So that's why you're seeing just a pennant, and I asked Dr. Petito to come up so that he can receive this on behalf of Grace, George's wife. And thank you, Doctor, for all the help you gave me in making sure I knew George's backstory. Did you want to add anything about it?
No.
Okay, great.
Everything I had to say, I wrote in the answer.
Good, thank you.